We're back to our politics lead now. So the White House now has a technical plan to fix the healthcare.gov website, or so they say. One that they say will have everything running smoothly by the end of next month. Time will tell. But what's the political fix going to look like? Right now, it does not look likely to include the resignation of Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, at least not if she has anything to say about it.
The majority of people calling for me to resign, I would say, are people who I don't work for and who do not want this program to work in the first place.
Let's bring in our panel. Washington Post columnist and senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, Matt Miller, co-host of CNN's Crossfire S.E. Cup and Emmy Award-winning political analyst and the author of the new book, If Kennedy Lived, The First and Second Terms of John F. Kennedy, An Alternate History, my friend Jeff Greenfield. Welcome, one and all. Jeff, I'll start with you. Our friend Peggy Noonan writes about the possible forced resignation of Sebelius. She writes, quote, yes, a firing would be good democratic form, and it would acknowledge the idea of accountability. Someone or some persons failed on a historic level and were removed. It would take some heat off the White House. Look, we're doing something. So it's surprising they haven't done it, and odd that Republicans are clamoring for it. Jeff, do you think the White House needs a sacrificial lamb for this, or are we in a place in politics where that's not necessary anymore?
You know, I think we're almost at the point where even casual political observers understand the essentially phony nature of so much of what passes for indignation in Washington. The last time I can recall, one of the only times I can recall a cabinet member removed for a policy failure was when George Bush cashiered Donald Rumsfeld. Most of the time, this is a contest between mutual indignation. And I guess the question you'd want to ask is, do we think that if Catherine Sebelius is forced to resign, that's going to make any difference in how quickly, if at all, this website and structural problems are fixed? And if the issue is accountability, which is a perfectly reasonable way to get rid of cabinet officers, say, in other countries, how often do cabinet officers get sacked for accountability? And how often is this the occasion for whichever party is not in power in the White House to drag a cabinet member or some other poor official up to the congressional committee and ask a series of questions that they have no real interest in having answered because what they want is the political power of blaming somebody?
S.E., there is a certain kabuki to this all. Something happens, people who don't even support the law working to begin with. And certainly there are lots of states run by governors, Republican governors, who have not cooperated with Obamacare and its implementation, saying, oh, this is so horrible that this isn't working. Do you think that there actually is a legitimate reason for Sebelius to go?
Well, to the accountability point, sure. But where Peggy is right is that Republicans should want her to stick around. Republicans don't need to make Kathleen Sebelius the enemy. The program is the enemy. Inefficient government is the enemy. The website's not even the enemy. So that's what they need to be talking about. Where she's wrong, though, is I'm not sure it's all that surprising that they haven't fired her or asked for her resignation. Obama can't replace her. He can't get anyone else confirmed. So there's no, I mean, it's not even a practical consideration for President Obama's point of view. She's staying.
Matt, you've said that the Republicans are crying crocodile tears. You wrote, what conservative officials, pundits, and advocates are screaming is closer to the following: how dare you totally screw up something that we think shouldn't exist? Do you think they really want Sebelius to resign?
I think they want to do anything they can to make political hay out of this, to see if they can't make a dent in Obama before the program actually gets its act together and gets implemented. You know, when S.E. says the program is the enemy, sorry, S.E., that's spoken like a very well-insured person. When you've got 50 million people, most of them workers, poor workers, who can't get health coverage, this program's essential for them.
And absolutely,
and there's no question.
A lot more than they think, because they're not going to get the people they need to get onto Obamacare.
There's no question that once the wrinkles in this are worked out, and if it takes a month or two, that's fine. Well, let's talk in 6 months. Just chill out. If you've got millions of people getting health coverage for the first time that protects them against financial ruin, Republicans won't have a leg to stand on unless they come forward, which they never do, with an actual alternative that would ensure people against financial ruin from illness. We're the only advanced country that doesn't do that. That's the big picture. The Sebelius resignation stuff is a total sideshow.
I completely agree. Sebelius is insignificant. We'll talk in 6 months. You're absolutely right when these wrinkles get ironed out. and you think millions of people have successfully signed on to these exchanges that aren't going to collapse under the weight of itself because they haven't gotten not enough young, healthy people to subscribe.
They will, though. That's the whole point. And again, where's the Republican alternative? This was a Republican design plan to get everyone in the insurance pool. And Republicans, all they do is say, we don't want this to happen. But, I mean, it's without an alternative, all you're saying is we don't want millions of poor workers to get health coverage.
Why do you want an alternative, Matt?
Let me bring in Jeff for 1 second. Let me bring in Jeff for 1 second. Jeff, one thing that I will say seems to be a real problem for the Obama administration, in addition, of course, to all these problems with the rollout of the website, is 10 Democratic senators are now on board for a delay of the individual mandate. Could that cause the administration some serious problems?
Yes, you are citing, as I'm sure you know, Jake, Greenfield's second law of politics. I have no idea what the first law is, by the way. But the law is the danger to anyone in power is what we used to say when in unorganized baseball games I used to play it. We were in a Jewish neighborhood. Every play ended in an argument, and they ended when somebody said, your own man says so. That's the biggest danger to almost any political figure, is when your own man says so. And the Obama administration is in a political position where they could not possibly have asked for a delay, even if it was substantively justified, because it would have given the other guy a break. Now you've got, as you point out, 10 Democratic senators calling for it. It's very hard for the Obama White House to say, oh, this is all politics, because it's their man saying it. And I think as we get down the road, if more senators and more public policy people who support the idea look at this particular program, as Matt says, a few months down the road, and shake their heads and say, you know what, there are serious structural problems here, that essentially, I don't want to overstate this, although that's what cable TV is supposed to do, this dooms Obama's second term.
But I do think it's important. Remember, the delay that the folks have called for in this letter, you got to look at the actual letter they sent. It was very solicitous of Kathleen Sebelius. They said, we understand you're doing your best. It doesn't even ask for a time frame on how much it would delay. The administration's already said, let's slip the mandate for 6 weeks. Yeah. So this is not like the 1 year, 2 year delay that Ted Cruz, the very well-insured Goldman Sachs spouse, because we know that's where he gets his health coverage, it's not that kind of a delay being talked about at all. It's a little bit of a political positioning by Democrats who may be a little antsy to see which way the wind blows on this if it ends up being a calamity. But it's not, I don't believe it's the beginning of some tidal wave of opposition at all.
Matt, I want to ask you, because you are a strong supporter of the law, every day I pick up the paper or browse the web, and I'm seeing stories about individuals coming home, getting letters from their insurance companies saying that their policies are going to have to be canceled because they're not in accordance with Obamacare. Obviously, there will be other policies that they then can sign up for, but there is a lot of concern out there that Obamacare is going to force individuals into policies that they don't want and possibly you know, a violation of the president's promise. If you like your health care, you can keep your health care.
Look, there are fair critiques of the law, and I'm not here to defend every, you know, every single item in the law. I'd say there's a lot of things we could mend in Obamacare, obviously without ending it. But in things like that, mostly what Obamacare has done has required people to have more ample coverage than a lot of the skinnier down plans that some people have had in the individual market. Remember, this whole thing is about 20 million people out of the 300+ million people in the United States in the individual market. Some small subset of them may be asked to have a more robust coverage. But that's offset, I think, by the millions and millions who will have for the first time access to affordable health coverage if you look at the big picture.
And you just tell those people, Matt, to chill out, right? Chill out.
Yes.
I want to give Jeff the last word because he has this new book, and I want to let him give a plug for it. Tell us about it's a novel. It imagines what the two Kennedy terms would have been like if he had lived.
Yeah, for some reason they call it nonfiction because it relies on facts on the ground. It's a fascination I've had with how often small twists of fate in our history lead to huge consequences. And in this case, it begins with the notion that the rain in Dallas, Texas on November 22nd doesn't stop. The bubble top stays atop the car. Lee Harvey Oswald, who I do believe was the assassin, wounds but doesn't kill the Kennedy. And I then try to play out, okay, if President Kennedy remains the president, what do the next 5 years look like? What happens in Vietnam? What happens at home? What happens to the culture wars of the 60s? What happens to the whole political future of this country? Because tiny little twists of fate, which I think is the driving notion that so many historians won't cope with, can lead to huge consequences.
I was
And that's the premise.
skimming it before the show, and it's not a spoiler, but I will say Lyndon Johnson not the vice president in the second term. So
That's right.
A little moment of intrigue. I can't wait to read it. Thank you so much, Jeff Greenfield. Best of luck with the book. Matt Miller, SE Cupp. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Coming up.